All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back into the action now as we have Tfue and Cloakzy going against Daequan and Camills. Once again, let's see who is in fact going to take this, which, yeah, it's gonna be another intense matchup.
I'm excited. I don't know about anyone else, but I am hyped to see how this winner's final goes. Of course, the winner of this game, like Taylor said, is going to the grand finals. It's about to be hype. It's about to be exciting. And boy, am I ready. I don't know about you, Legion, but
I'm more than ready here because the winner of this game is guaranteed, or this match rather, 7,000 for second place. Whew. Just sitting there waiting casually in the grand finals for the losers team that's going to be coming out of that. And I'd say 7K is a pretty good haul for a Friday. What do you think?
I mean, I would definitely take that payday anytime soon. I'm, just casually sitting here watching some awesome Fortnite action. I'm not sure about anyone else, but we have the easiest seat. We have the nicest seat. So that's kind of, I guess, my little area. I can't win the money, but at least I get the best seat and be able to commentate over it with you awesome gentlemen. It's great.
I mean, we could compete, but I'm going to say losers won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
LBR won. Shout out to that placing that would happen if we did play. But you know what? That's not what this is about. We're watching the actual professionals play today. 4 kills out of Daequan and Camills. Camills coming in hot for his first Friday Fortnite tournament. TSM legend, and they're dominating right now.
Yeah, great stuff coming in for Daequan, though gets low on health, so he's going to have to find a med kit relatively soon. But overall, his inventory looking very solid with those 3 kills.
Indeed it is. Of course, as TSM tries to kind of reevaluate themselves, try to get that health back up, we do transfer things over toward the FaZe boys. They're just going to kind of be toward the kind of southwest region of Salty Springs. And kind of toward that is near the kind of main mountain area just north of Fatal Field. So they're going to have the opportunity to kind of scavenge kind of around this area. And our last week tournament as well, our Friday Fortnite tournament, we saw quite a few teams kind of going toward these outside buildings. So I'm not sure if that was the original landing spot that FaZe had intended or if they just happened to kind of end up here. But that's the thing with FaZe that we always consistently talk about with these guys as we see Cloak actually drop a few of the nades here, the explodes rather, over toward Tfue, is that they always put themselves in a position to succeed, always with the map advantage, always thinking about what the enemy is doing. And that's the worrisome thing that both of these teams have to be facing off against one another, is that generally the game knowledge is always going to be a huge, kind of factor. It's always going to be an advantage for either of these squads versus anyone else but these exact teams. And the reason being is because of those scrimming hours, the ability to learn the game from a competitive aspect. But now in this situation for FaZe and now for TSM, they no longer possess that advantage. It's now pretty much an even ground, and this is kind of another rivalry potential where we get to see the organization of FaZe facing off against TSM in the hottest game in the world right now, which happens to be Fortnite.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at just overall what's happening here, just not a lot. They're just going to be kitting up, looting up, trying to get the meds through. Daequan finally finds some much-needed bandages. He needed those to get to max health, and they'll just be meeting up relatively close to each other, though. Going into Dusty, of course, this is the transfer point for a lot of engagements, so they can potentially find a lot. Camills spots a player, misses the shot, goes in with the AR, not able to connects a couple of shots, might still get the down. Good job on his part, showing his versatility there, but those snipes are so crucial to hit, especially if you're going to whip it out.
Now, even though with 0 kills here on the FaZe side, this is something we're accustomed to seeing. There's still almost half the lobby left. They're slowly making their way, and they obviously know where their squad mates are, so they can kind of consolidate on where most of their opponents are going to be when they're making their way into the map. 6-kill deficit with 38 people alive is nothing for these FaZe guys. We've seen them do it time and time again, week after week. It's all about patience and understanding each other's play style and just moving in to get those kills. And obviously they need to get it rather quicker than slower,
yeah.
But of course not an issue for them in any other tournament we've seen them play in so far.
And that's one thing, too, that we always credit for is the ability to find the kills, but it's also the ability to stay up toward the end of the game. When we talk about engagements, right, when it comes down to a Fortnite game, it's not necessarily being up for the original 100, but it's about the final 30. Think about it, right? When it comes down to engagements, those last 30 players are in a more condensed area than the original 50, than the original 60, 70, etc. Being alive in this situation right here, where there's, like 31 more engagements left or something along those lines, that's where the peak of these kills are going to come from. So like you said, it's going to add on toward Legion's point, is that as long as you're alive in this situation, that's when things can start to go your way. But unfortunately for Camills, he starts to see the excess of that situation. He will fully get thirsted out. And now, if you're in the position for Daequan, you find yourself in a permanent 1v2 situation, and he's going to join alongside the FaZe guys here in this particular spot, trying to fight for these kills, trying to get some type of positive in his backside, as now it's going to be a little bit of an awkward opportunity with the amount of players that are up, the amount of kills that are available. Daequan, he has got to put on a show here just to make this series interesting.
And he does so. And did Tfue and Cloakzy just meet up? Yes, they did. So Tfue and Cloakzy meet up, and still that final kill. Now, mind you, there's been a lot of ribs was saying this in our last stream. Does the enemy come when, let's say, like the enemy team that we're playing against, and we see that maybe one of them is struggling in a gunfight? Do we allow that gunfight to happen? Yes, Daequan may pick up that kill, but can also get weak and go down. And if he goes down, of course, then it's free reign from that point forward. What do you think about that coming from a competitive standpoint, Legion?
I mean, coming from a competitive standpoint, you see Tfue and Cloak making their way over here into Divot. Obviously, you've got Daequan really just trying to play not necessarily a passive role, but trying to get those peaks here. He doesn't even have an AR in his inventory, which I find extremely interesting. He's literally just got a green tack sub, but finds one. He really needs to play a role where he's cleaning up these kills. He knows going into this that he's got to lead even with the down teammate. So if he can just get a couple of those, keep it even, going into that second game is going to be huge for him. So it's really not too much slack on his back, especially with just the fact that he's been playing in these now for weeks, has a lot of experience in this type of situation.
And I will say, there's been a number of different series that we've been able to cast over with FaZe and whatnot, and a lot of their history has kind of come from being in these 2v1 situations where they have the advantage. And one thing that they're very good at doing, and that we've seen them in prior tournaments, actually in, I think it was week 3, we actually saw Cloak at one point randomly start shooting some like barrels or like some random building. And the reason why he was doing that is because Tfue had spotted a full squad, so he was trying to kind of allow the enemy to be a little bit more distracted. So they've been kind of one of the earlier teams to kind of develop these outside strategies to allow their teammates to be set up in better situations. So I think one thing's for certain in this kind of 1v2 situation for FaZe, they know what it's like. They know when they need to split apart, when they can kind of be acting as a full 3-man squad. Because for Daequan, well, if he wants to join up with FaZe, that strategy is totally normal. In some cases, it's not going to be the best of situations just because of the fact that FaZe has been here so many times. So depending on what Daequan likes to do, I think it's fair to say FaZe is going to be ready for anything that he has to throw at them.
And I'm also finding it interesting. We know Daequan is one of the double pump gods, but notice how he has the heavy shotgun in his back pocket. I'm sure he's had plenty of opportunities to pick up another pump to make that double pump viable, but with the addition, right, because they went down 10 total hit points, plus the headshot multiplier has been limited, maybe he's going with that heavy. I think we've seen a lot of heavies throughout this tournament, and showing Daequan double pump god using a heavy in his back pocket. I think this could be the next meta.
I want to ask you guys, out of the 3 shotguns that we have available, right, the tac, the pump, and the heavy, what is your kind of weapon of choice? Is it the pump? Because for me, my favorite gun in the entire game is the blue tac, just because it's consistent, it hits pretty well. You can oftentimes kind of one-shot someone in the head if you hit them right. I'm a tac guy, but I know a lot of people are in favor of the pump or the heavy.
I've been a heavy fan since it dropped in the game. A lot of people, they didn't prefer it just because the pace of fire, the fire rate was so much slower than the others. And then also being able to go from one shotgun to the other, it seems like the heavy was on the weak end of that. But looking at not only this newest update, but just in terms of the mid-range to long-range shotgun engagement, if you're caught in one of those situations where you're just trying to get a quick shot off because you get caught off guard by somebody from that distance, that shotgun can still sometimes do damage. I've done 90 from like what feels like 65 meters away to somebody before just with a body shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've never been a fan of the heavy, but I think I'm going to start implementing it, especially even starting tonight whenever I go play at home. But the reason why I wasn't a fan of heavy is because the damage per second wasn't there. The tactical shotgun was better, plus of course you have the pump in your back pocket. So I love to run the pump with the tac, which is what a lot of pros are at least looking to do now. But like I said, pump tac was my kind of go-to. I prefer a green tac at most because I find the gray tac to be really inconsistent, to be quite honest with you. But now I might start running the pump heavy. I think that's going to be at least my new meta. It seems to be working throughout these tournaments.
And if you know that the double pump man himself happens to be changing up the strategies, it's fair to say it's probably pretty pristine as far as the amplitude and the probability of how well it's going to work. So I think it's fair to say Daequan is kind of an ambassador that you definitely need to kind of be following his gameplay, especially if you have that core fast in your play style. But taking a quick look at the left side of our screen right now, Tfue and Cloak have made their way just outside of this loot lake area. Of course, from afar right now is Tfue with the sniper rifle, having 2 players happen to be right in front of him. Of course, keeping in mind they do have the storm right in front of them. They have the zone to their backside with the favorable map position. And of course, with those explodes as well, it's going to make life so much more difficult for this team who's just trying to survive the storm and, of course, try to put up as many walls as they can. Those explodes are going to ruin the party.
And this is what we've been talking about all day, playing that zone, playing the storm. These guys are the best in the world, making sure if you're one of those straggler teams that's going to be coming in, you're going to pay for it. It's all about getting their opponents weak, making sure that by the time the storm actually reaches it, they're still being damaged by it. And look at this. It's 2-3 kills lining up for Tfue and Cloak again. FaZe Boying's doing an excellent job of garnering up the last few kills here as we have 5 total engagements possible for them remaining. I don't think Daequan has seen anybody in 5 or 6 minutes in the game.
No, he's been stuck at 5 kills for the longest time, and we just see FaZe Boys just picking up kills left and right. Of course, though, game's not going to get too out of him. We know Camills picked up quite a few kills himself, so they might go in at a little minor deficit, maybe at most 6-7 kills, which isn't too bad. We can recover that relatively easily. But still, the fact that Daequan is left up, maybe keeping it so close as he is, just a testament as to how good he is. But yeah, like you said, he's not finding anybody, and he's pushing towards the storm.
And one thing as far as Daequan's play style, we talked about he's going to be kind of not necessarily the aggressor, but he's the guy with the shotguns, right? And so any role in this game, we know shotguns from afar is not the best strategy unless you want to get like -1s or -2s popping up, the occasional -7 if you're lucky. But so of course, according to that strategy, him being the double pump god, you got to imagine he wants to prefer those up-close and personal fights, which if you're Tfue and Cloak, I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing quite a few sniper plays coming from Tfue. He's also got the grenade launcher in his back pocket. We see Cloaksy right now rocking the Scar. These guys are built up. They're ready for these long-distance fights. So unless Daequan can either butt his way in front of the FaZe guys or maybe find an engagement by himself, it's going to be very difficult for him to try to find these engagements because you also take a look at his play style. I talked about him rocking the pumps. What, does he have a green SMG from afar, and he's got rockets. He actually has